one.
The hour being 6:30, I would like to call this meeting to order. Templeton Advisory Committee regular business is being broadcast live on TCTV Channel 8 and the TCTV YouTube channel. Responses will be made to comments in the TCTV YouTube channel as time permits. The agenda and meeting materials for this business meeting were posted to mytowngovernment.org/01468 no later than 48 hours prior to the scheduled meeting, in accordance with Commonwealth of Massachusetts open meeting laws. The chair reserves the right to add items to, remove items from, or change the order of the agenda. However, the agenda is posted in advance to give the committee and the public time to review the agenda items and to ensure that the meeting runs within the allotted time frame. But this time, I would like to call on everybody present to recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes of November 21st, 2024. And I would ask my fellow members if you have had a chance to review the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of November 21st, 2024.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, there being no further discussion, I would ask for a vote. How do you vote, Ms. McComber?
Yes.
Mr. Moser?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
I also vote yes. The next item on the agenda is the January 15th, 2025 minutes. And I would ask my fellow members if you've had a chance to review those minutes.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the minutes for January 15, 2025. I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, there be no further discussion. Ms. McComber?
Yes.
Mr. Moser?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approve the minutes of the all boards meeting from February 6th, 2025. Again, have the members had a chance to review these minutes?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I have a motion.
I motion to approve the minutes, Mr. Chair.
Have a second.
A second.
Any further discussion?
Not so much discussion. I wasn't present at the meeting.
You should abstain.
I shall.
Okay. All right. There'd be no further discussion. Then I'll call for a vote. Ms. McComber.
Yes.
Mr. Moser will record your vote as present.
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
I also vote yes. At this time, are there any public comments? Any public comments? And what I would like to do, there being no public comments, at this time, Mr. Lamontagne is present, and his particular item was nearly the last item on the agenda, and out of respect for his office and his schedule, I would like to have Mr. Lamontagne come forward to discuss, and this is initial discussion only, of the request of the town administrator seeking advisory approval to transfer $25,000 from the advisory emergency reserve account to study the feasibility of the withdrawal of Templeton from the Narragansett Regional School District. I think my original intent, and I did communicate this to the other board members, was to defer further discussion of this until our March meeting. And I would also give you that chance if you wish to defer. I understand, that you have a statement that you wish to read. So floor is now yours.
Well, we spoke about them and that was actually my intention anyways, was to defer it for the time being.
Is that still your intention, or do you just wish to offer a statement?
Well, I generally, when I see an issue that's with unsustainable increases, I want to figure out what the root cause is. So I kind of want to give some insight to the board.
Okay.
Okay.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I'm an academic. I read a lot of books, but I think you read a lot more.
I'm not so sure of that.
You write books too.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So
Books that nobody reads, but
well, we're all familiar. You all received the draft number from the district, the $965,000 increase. Which is substantial, to say the least. In the fiscal year 25 was roughly around the same number, dropped a little bit after some talks between the chairs. It was roughly $130,000, and this is an issue that, and with discussions that we've spoken about with relative to the debt at Templeton Elementary School. So I went back and reviewed some documents from the district organization advisory committee of the district established back in January 2018, because I want to be able to figure out as much information as possible. So the first thing that caught my eye is this undated letter from the district. It was back in December. The interest forms were due back in December 11th, 2017 for this district reorganization advisory committee. So 2017, the last agreement that was signed by both member towns and the chair of the school committee was back in 2004. In 2004, there was a section here under review, 5 years from the effective date of this amendment agreement, and every 5 years thereafter, the school committee shall itself review and or appoint an advisory committee to study and recommend amendments to this agreement. However, the failure to do so shall not affect the validity of this agreement. So I said, okay. And then I came back here to 2017 on this undated letter, and this was sent to community members of the following list of expectations originally presented to the community back then. Number one, pre-K students will be educated in the new building. 2, any student who resides in Templeton from grades K through 5 will be relocated to the new building. 3, the middle school will be reconfigured to the traditional grades 6 through 8, and high school will remain grades 9 through 12. Further, number 4, any student who resides in Phillipston from grades K through 5 will be educated at the Phillipston Memorial Elementary School. So I went through and I found some interesting information and from Phillipston. This was from the concerned parents of the Phillipston PTG board of membership. Their letter ends by the potential benefits being alleged do not match or surpass the day-to-day implications for parents and students and all of us who try to support them. And again, this drastically alters what Phillipston parents have consistently voted for and what Templeton parents were promised. It would likely also violate, void the MSBA contract. The specific grades were listed on the application. We want the Templeton children to have a new school and don't want anything to jeopardize that. We just do not want to be forced into joining them there and therefore cannot support this proposal anyway. This is a letter to a NRSD school committee member back in April of 2018. So started going through and really looking at things, because Templeton's been flipping a lot of the bills. And there's a lot of different things. Now, quite frankly, could withdrawal be one of the options? Absolutely. But admission of additional towns could be an option under this section of the 2004 agreement. By amendment of this agreement adopted under and in accordance with the section, any other town or towns may be admitted to the regional school district upon adoption as therein provided of such amendment and upon acceptance by the town or town seeking admission of the agreement as so amended, and also upon compliance with such provisions of laws may be applicable and such terms as may be set forth in such amendment. So as you all know, I was a school committee member at one point myself, so I'm very familiar with the school committee and the processes that take place. I had some conversations with folks and said, well, you know, if you're getting smaller, you can't share in the resources. So my thought was, well, maybe you could make a big, beautiful district. And the thing is, and that's what made me ponder this. And when I formed the working group within my authority as a chief financial officer, I worked with Phillipston, because a very, very important part of this process is for you to have both member towns supportive. The current structure right now, it's not working. It is not working. It has been working since I've been here. It's fact. Unless any of you could say that Phillipston's been part of the process, counter me, it's not been working. So I'm doing a new approach, an approach that I think could create opportunities and create a district where we share in resources. And hopefully at that point, we would have a sustainable, supportive, and inclusive district where all member towns feel like they're part of the process. Not one member town not feeling part, or a split town with division. So I spoke with went to the Phillipston Select Board. I met their Chief Administrative Officer, Peter. Peter's a really nice guy. He will actually be appointing 3 folks from Phillipston onto the working group. But Peter, actually I haven't spoken to him. I don't think he had a complaint from the superintendent, but we are continuing to look at all these options. I will say this, the budget, fortunately for me, with at least with the select board, I believe there could be an opportunity, some cost savings with Phillipston being involved. And the working groups just going to be, the Templeton working groups meeting next week. And right now, I think we could probably actually make it work with our budget. So I might be able to defer it, not need advisory funds. I'm going to check if Phillipston's willing to pay for any portion. And I think this could be a good thing. I'm very confident about, you know, and I think it's a very good possibility to have this big, beautiful district. I did speak with the district. They will be cooperating with the working groups. And I just want you to be aware of all these things, because if we keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, it's probably not going to change. We got to be able to look at different things. We got to be able to bring a member town that feels disenfranchised in. And I'm proud that I did. I brought them to the table. And I told them straight up, you know, Templeton's concerns. But we need to have that discussion. The member towns both need to be involved, because the way this agreement's read, we need to have both of us be part of this. I mean, unless any of you could tell me that the current structure is working.
Do you have anything else you wish to say?
No, I think the covers it all.
What I would like to do is, at this point, I would like to give each member a chance to ask Ms. LaMontagne questions. And I would start with you, Jacqueline. Good.
My question is anybody figured out if Phillipston is currently or has in the past been paying for the children to attend TES since were forced to go to TES. And if so, are those, since there's no, signed agreement, are those children considered part of the district, or are they considered school choice children? And if they're considered school choice children, is there a price difference between what a school choice child pays to attend school in Templeton versus an in-district child attends? And is Phillipston aware of these type things? If you don't have any insight in that, then
Okay. That's a great question, and that's one thing that I was actually reviewing, and the study groups could be reviewing further, because essentially right now it's being treated as a regional elementary school, which I don't think is in accordance with the agreement.
Right.
Now, all those students Templeton's paying all the debt. We all know this.
mhm,
But all the students are being treated as they're part of the district. So is it cost effective to have busing going on from Phillipston all the way to Templeton? And should the students be treated as school choice? And that would be receiving money into the district? Those are all questions that it would be part of the study. Those all need to be examined.
Mm.
But I want Phillipston to be part of the table too.
Yeah.
So they understand that Templeton is working with you, not against you. And all those things are questions. And what made me say, you know what, I got to do something. If I don't do something as a chief financial officer, who will? And you know what, sometimes I have to make politically unpopular decisions where my own bosses get upset with me. And I have to face those political repercussions, whatever they may be. Whether it's me getting an attorney and having to defend all my actions, I will do that. I have to be willing to fight for the taxpayers, but as well get results for the community. That is my job. But perfect question.
thanks.
You understand the different scenarios.
Yeah.
And those all need to be explored. But we're going to do it where Phillipston will be part of the table.
Perfect.
Do you have any further questions?
Nope.
Mr. Moser?
Where we're deferring this, I guess, to a future meeting, I'll probably reserve most of my questions for that time. I did have one question, or at least one point that I wanted to clarify, and I think you've done it in your statement already. If there is going to be this sort of study, what I would want to have is sort of all these different options on the table, not just have it predetermined that we're looking at get out of the district or not. That certainly may be the ultimate recommendation or one of the options that's presented in the final report. However, I would like it, and it does sound like you've addressed this evening, to be more broad-based, look at different scenarios, look at, are there efficiencies that we can find within the district? Does it make sense to, as you described it, have that one big beautiful district where we're adding people instead of reducing members in the district? So I'm glad that you were able to address that tonight, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. And it could be a new beautiful district.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be the current district.
Right.
But I think at least having some type of goal, and this process, by the way, the withdrawal, if you read this section, it's a very thorough process. It's not going to happen overnight. So when people are freaking out because of the thing that got leaked on social media and the public, it got out to the public that way, it's all misinformation. So folks, there's no need to get worried. All we're doing is trying to get the best deal for the taxpayer. That's all. And we're doing our job to look at all the options. And if our current district works with possibly adding another community, I wouldn't be against that. But let's say if it came back where withdrawing is the best option. I mean, there's a good argument that withdrawal by getting smaller would be not financially advantageous. And I understand that too, because I talked to some really smart, educated people, and I had some really good discussions with them, and hearing what they had to say, I took all that into consideration as well.
Do you have any further questions?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Catholics?
Nope, almost set. Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions, and I guess my questions are in the nature of threshold questions. I am not 100% convinced that advisory has the authority to move $25,000 for the reason that you requested. And I can go to my attorney friends, which I have several, I could ask for their opinion, but I really would like to see something from town council about whether we have, the authority. I look at this is, first of all, withdrawal from the school district being one of the potential options. I just think that it's kind of a momentous decision. And being in the nature of a momentous decision, I think that to appropriate money is really should be done from the town hall floor. And this is why I feel this way, is that I don't see this as a present emergency, and I think our reserve fund is for emergencies. And also, the nature of the use of the funds is, it's one thing to use it for, let's say, DPW, it's a water main break, and they don't have enough money because it's, 1 month left in the fiscal year. They just don't have any money. So you come to us and you ask for $15,000 to replace a water main because it's supplementing an existing appropriation. So the reason why I have a problem, a threshold problem, is that this really is, in a sense, in my opinion, you may differ from this, but in my opinion, I feel that this is in the nature of a brand new appropriation. And being a brand new appropriation is that it really should come from the town meeting floor, because ultimately the people, the residents and voters of the town, they're really the legislature. And I just would really, I was going to ask to defer this. I just feel before we get into the merits one way or the other, and I appreciate what you've said tonight, but I just
We
think,
also talked about that too.
yeah, we have, and I just think that we should answer that threshold question, and I think our town council should be the one answering that threshold question. So I would ask you tonight if you could pose that question. And I really think that we should have that before we discuss
Well,
this.
more than
any
likely,
further.
I'm not going to be coming back.
What's that?
I'm not, more than likely, I'm probably not going to come back because I'll probably have the funds. I'm going to try to keep my legal budget down and everything to make this work.
Okay.
But to your point,
Then it would-
no, I understand your perspective that you don't consider it an emergency. But also you have to take the perspective of the chief financial officer. When I see $1 million roughly in 25, and then seeing another roughly $1 million the following fiscal year, I consider that unforeseen. That would be my point. So
Yeah. And I understand and respect that, but I hope that you understand my point is that
I understand your
we
perspective.
are a citizen body, and
Yeah.
we are try to reflect the will of the citizens. And I think the true will of the citizens, I mean, we make recommendations all the time that at town meeting, they get rejected. So I'm not sure what the will of the citizens may be.
You got Terry here. She's bringing your recommendations to the select board.
Well, as I said, I'm not sure what the will of the citizens at large would be. And the best way to determine that is really from the town meeting floor. That's my point. And that's where we differ. So
Yeah, we're not that far off though.
maybe not. But in any event, is there anything more that you wish to say?
No, I think I covered everything. I just wanted to bring some information to you all. So you're familiar with what my findings were. The study group or working group will be meeting next week. There was one of the things I was actually going to refer, just for your information too. I got word that there was a discussion at the select board meeting the other night, and it was about a CPA article that the district was requesting funds for softball fields. And what happened was Phillipson wasn't going to commit to those. So Templeton was going to flip the entire bill. And it was brought up. I was actually going to refer it to my working group, but the district has rescinded that request from what I heard. So that's another thing. So those fields will not be part of the warrant from what I hear. The district's pulling that request. And it's just important that if we have 2 member towns, my philosophy is this: if one of them is not supporting the district, then the other one shouldn't be supporting the same thing. They need to either both be on board or not. It's as simple as that. I just wanted to, I'm not sure if you're aware of that information.
Now, Mr. Lamontagne, going forward is, I've asked an opinion to town council, whatever that may be, is if you feel that you have the money, you know, in other funds, you know, the discretionary funds, is this, are you asking for no further action from advisory at that point?
That would be correct. And I'll see if Phillipson's willing to put funds towards it as well.
And also, you know, we are the citizens, do you wish us to discuss this further at a meeting? Or do you think that the existing study group, existing action by the select board, the ongoing budget process?
I'm giving the study group all the authority.
So do you think that with budget process and the ongoing discussions, that's enough? So you wouldn't be in front of us unless you needed $25,000 or a portion of the $25,000.
I can make it work.
Any further questions or discussion? Right, I thank you for appearing.
Yeah, thank you for your time and trying to be here till midnight. Okay, I looked at your agenda and I just said, wow. That's why I said to you, no, please move me up. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
You all have a good night.
No, I always defer to members, you know, town officials. I think all of us here try to defer.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next meeting with the accountant. So
Right.
have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Darius.
This point, Terry, are you here to offer either public comment or did you wish to address an agenda item? Because you're a town official and I would certainly defer, give you deference so you can go home early as well. It's up to
I
you.
don't need special treatment, but why not? If you really want me to wait, I can.
Can,
So it's up to.
okay, because I'm gonna kind of plod through the agenda and I just,
Yeah, I'm gonna. It
I'll
should be
say,
quick.
you got your chance.
Yep, I'll be quick. So I'm here on behalf of the select board because we got your read file. In the read file, I brought everything that you sent to the select board and read them all out. Some were already moot and handled, but the one dated January 21st, 2025, asking for us to have correspondence with Representative Zlotnik and Senator Durant in regard to Bill 3701 at the time, and now it's HD 3678, which John Zlotnik and Susanna Whips, I think I have a copy, have taken that over. So you asked us, they kicked it back and I volunteered because I just really, first of all, I respect your time. And I said, they're working hard. They have the best interests of the town and they deserve respect. So I respect your time and I thank you for your service. And they wanted me to figure out what you potentially would like to say to Rep. Zlotnik, and right now the other sponsor is Susanna Whips. So it's just in the beginning phases, and I did send them an email. I don't know if you, and I asked them the status note because I know we talk sometimes, and they kicked it back to me saying it's HD 3678, but nothing's done yet. I think I have that paper too. So basically, I'm here to see how you want me to phrase things, how you want the board to phrase things, and get your advice on that.
if I may, a couple of comments, you know, before I turn it over to the other members, is
I didn't tell them do you know what we're talking about? I
Mhm.
didn't say, okay.
Yeah.
Andrew and Jackie, you know what the former bill was about?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Didn't want to assume. Thanks.
Um, what advisory was, we advisory felt, and I think the other members will agree with me, is that we felt that because of the overwhelming turnout at the special town meeting in November, that a letter should be drafted to our elected representatives, Representative Zlotnik and State Senator Durant, that basically in support of what is now House Bill 3678, that we, right, is that the recommendation was that the select board, in light of the overwhelming turnout at town meeting, our recommendation was that the select board write a letter,
Mhm.
to Representative Zlotnik and State Senator Durant, that states that, a large, hundreds of citizens support, this bill, and that is the sentiment of the town to support this bill, and requesting that you give your best effort on behalf of the town. I think that is the the kind of language that we discussed in the meeting. If you wish, I'm sure advisory could come up with a letter. That'd be.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could come up with a letter for consideration by the select board.
That'd be great. Yeah, because I took notes, but that'd be great.
Now, we didn't actually draft a letter, we just asked you to send a letter.
Yeah. Mhm.
What we asked you to do, and I think that we would be glad to do that.
Mhm. I appreciate it. And I had a couple questions for you and your expertise. This bill, what does it say? It was filed.
I do want to offer another comment about the bill.
Mhm.
Is the legislature, I mean, we live in a capitalist economy,
Mhm.
and the legislature, and I've had this discussion with Representative Zlotnik. The legislature would probably be extremely difficult to persuade the legislature to ban a particular business, because at the end of the day, we are a capitalistic society, and all sorts of industries, if they want to come in, they go before the planning board or the appropriate state agency. And with the presumption being that they have the right to do business in the Commonwealth. I mean, that's kind of the basis of our free capitalist society. So the slippery slope is, if you were to ban that particular business, is, the argument is, well, why not all chemical plants, or why not all oil refineries, or why not all, the list could go on and on. So where does the list end? That's the slippery slope. I am just suggesting this. I think the legislature would be much more amenable. So rather than outright banning an industry or a group of industries, is to change the permitting process. I think it would be much more amenable to that, so that plants, like the plants talked about in HB 3678
Mhm.
and other plants, is maybe the best solution. And I think the legislature might be heading toward that, is to have something like Act 250 in Vermont. In Vermont, any zoning in Vermont, any local zoning in Vermont for over 50 years has been reviewed by the state of Vermont,
Mhm.
with the presumption being is that if it is environmentally harmful, we're not going to allow that industry to come to the state of Vermont. The criticism of that is it's overreach into local cities and towns. And in Massachusetts, the difficulty is, how do you strike the permitting process with the prerogative of local cities and towns that have the kind of industries that they want? But I think the basic problem is that you have small towns like Templeton with very limited resources to review chemical plants or other, large plants coming in, and you don't have the time or the money. You have local people like us who they serve part-time and work somewhere else where these could be very, very complex proposals. So, maybe, one of the things, that, if you testify in front of the legislature, maybe you should suggest that, there be some kind of another, that a permitting process that favors, individual residents, under Article 97 of the Massachusetts State Constitution.
Hmm.
The one that deals with, the presumption being, that every citizen has a right to clean air, clean water.
Yeah, my environmental justice is, very prevalent in Gardner and not in Templeton. We don't have any EJ communities, but Athol, Phillipston.
But do you understand what I'm driving at?
Yeah, and my opinion is Rhode Island had success. It's not just banning, but placement. We've learned from the past. We can't, there's Otter River. You can't even disturb some Otter River because it's got forever chemicals in it. So we have to learn from our mistakes and be careful where we place things, and we went to planning board last night. Some of us went to planning board and no, the night before last to zoning, to get some zoning and to just start the conversation. They were threatened at first because of the wording and not everybody agreed on the wording. So there's another citizen's petition. And I apologize to Mr. Machete because I didn't bring that up. It's not like we want to do their job or cut their knees out from under them because they're our protection. We just want to start seeing how Templeton's changed over the years and what makes sense for today going forward, utilizing everything. And then there's so many cogs to the wheel because right now we're talking, particularly plastics, and Holman Street is the buzz. It's the white elephant in the room. But where was I going with that? Sorry. I forgot where I was going
Well,
with that.
if I may, the root problem, because I've seen this 5 times in the last 35, 40 years, is 35 years ago, BFI, large trash concern. They wanted to come to Winchendon and, dump all sorts of trash. And then there was a tannery proposal in Gardner. There's a racetrack proposal in Gardner more recently. There was a chemical plant proposed in Gardner 35 years ago. You got the pyrolysis plant issue now in Templeton. You got the sludge issue, but the basic root problem that needs to be addressed, it's in common with all of these, is that you have small boards that work part-time, and you have very complex proposals from often large corporations, and there's really no additional protection.
Safety net, yeah.
There's really no additional protection, and your group is, I think.
It's not really my group.
Well,
It
not
is-
your group, but the effort, House Bill 36.
We're just trying to get people on fire to talk now after COVID and come out and participate.
Right, but the thrust of the bill is to ban an industry, where the thrust of the bill should be to advise the state on how to better protect the cities and towns.
I get it. Yeah, at the state level, and then I get it. And what I was going to point out was that property now is in tax title. So, right now there's no special permit that's been ordered. And, but so we have time. We have time as residents. John feels very confident that, and so does Senator Durant, that there's time on the state level. And what I admire mostly, Noel, because I have your letters from 2019, is your correspondence. If we're not talking, if we're not communicating with our representatives, with each other, with residents who have the authority, how do we empower our residents? And if we're not willing to feel uncomfortable or awkward about certain issues because we're afraid we're going to hurt somebody's feelings, or I don't ever want to say anything to get the town sued, but in the worst case scenario, I really want to be careful what I say, but at the same time, we have to say something. We have to do something. I've been here since 1989. Things have changed. Though the certain villages, homes have grown up around that toxic area. And we all know what I'm talking about. And people over there are still scared, and they still would like their water tested, because the groundwater in particular, PCBs were sitting on a concrete slab for 17 years. They did a test a half a mile around the perimeter. And there's old pipes underground that, you know, lead to under the road or down to Depot Pond. So if we care about each other, and I care about my fellow residents, I care about the people, and I care about people around. We're supposed to. It's just what we're supposed to do. It's no big, it's nothing big. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just what we're supposed to be doing. And I would hope that more people would come out and do it.
All right, at this point, are there any further questions?
And you're just focusing on the Temple Stewart area, correct? So when you talk to zoning, you were focusing on the Temple Stewart area,
No zoning in the whole town.
the whole town.
Yeah, we got maps. We looked at, we're piecing it out. There are people that are volunteering to come in, city planners from other towns that are coming in and talking to us and saying it's a long process. You need to engage more people. There were 800 people from the area that signed that online petition about toxic waste. We're signing petitions for other states that are suffering and fighting different battles. And we're signing petitions as a group, as many of us can, you know, to come alongside each other in this country. We need, I want to say, we need a resurrection in this country. You know, we need to just all get along and say, what are we doing? What's going on? What are we
Well,
doing?
that other
And what are
property
we-
up the street from Lee's Hot Dog Stand, which is also
Depot Pond,
part of the same owner of,
correct.
which is another,
White Elephant,
yes, it is.
but it's a danger.
Which is a large piece of property. I mean, I don't know if they can build on, and I don't know what zoning can do, but I mean, I definitely am gonna be paying more attention.
And, you know, you can sit on them if the town takes them through tax title, which our town workers, I cannot say enough about their morals, their ethics. They really fight to keep things fair, and they do not, they feel awful when they can't keep things fair. And some of these properties have been on our books.
Yep.
And they shouldn't be going through the new properties. They should be going through the old ones, but they're so complicated.
Yeah, like these.
But you know what? You can sit on them. You can have a capital plan. You can sit on them for 10 years. There's 100-year leases. I don't know much about all that stuff, but there are things you can do.
The only issue with like that property up by Lee's is where the pond is, if we take that back tax title, the only fear I would have is if that, I don't even want to call it a dam. It's
It is an earthen dam.
it's not, it's like a water levy, whatever the heck it is. But if that overflowed and it flooded, say Balderville, who becomes liable if the property's owned by the town?
You got Kathy Matson living right down. You
I
got
see it.
TCT with
Yep.
equipment down there. I mean, these are people that we care about that serve our town. Kathy's volunteered on CERT. You know, and her, you know, and you
Yep.
just, you just don't know if it's gonna be a trickle or a gush.
Right.
You're taking a chance. So
I
I
read the
appreciate it.
report, you know, because I'm in a butter, and I read the report from 3 or 4 years ago, and at that time, it was $1.2 million to fix that.
Mm.
It's probably $3 to $4 million to fix that.
And if the town takes it over, then it will be the town's responsibility to repair.
Yeah,
So it's like
The
one of
big
those young one acts, what do you
consideration.
do?
it's a big consideration.
Huge.
Especially where people, to me, where people's lives are at stake. It's not something that you should never stop talking
Nope.
about until you find a solution that works, and keep knocking on people's doors, right? The greasy wheel gets the, what is it? The,
The oil,
yeah, this,
yeah, but
Yeah,
sometimes.
I
I
it's
think
like-
one possible solution to that issue might be, you know, our new grant writer, you know, Graceland, she might be, there is a,
she did try.
there is a section
Yep.
within the state that has
Yep.
authority over grants.
And there are more than one community in our situation with that, but not particularly like this. Because somebody else owns the property, he was served, he's got $1,000 a day fine, he owns, you know, we're hurting for money, and this guy owes us over $1 million. And we can't figure out what does justice look like to us? What does justice look like in that situation? I can't answer that right now, but what does justice look like? He's $13 million mansion. He built $300 million from 70 towns across the community. God have mercy on him. He could be repentant and be fine or what have you, but he's still in Nassau County Courthouse signing Secretary of American Tissue, President of American Tissue, and getting his business done. So what does justice look like for Templeton? And I think we were targeted on that property. I don't think it just happened overnight by coincidence. I think people had to talk about it. And for more than when they came before our board, which we bought right into it. And my apologies to the residents, my apologies to you all for not seeing the sales pitch and not doing due diligence, rushing into it, giving them the impression that we'd want to work with them when we, didn't understand the ramifications on the residents and do due diligence.
Well, that goes right to the heart of what I've been advocating, is you really need full-time people to look at these situations with a presumption in favor of individual residents, and you don't have that.
Well, we do now. We are getting these groups together and people are talking. Templeton Center Church has seen at least anywhere from 5 to a dozen people regularly, routinely, and now another church is going to open up. I don't know if you want me to give the full details on that, and I just had 2 questions because I don't want to take up your whole night. So Noel, this would be more like you. It says legislators and or citizens. So a citizen petition could go to the state? This
Yes,
right here.
Massachusetts, I have
So
actually,
just like this residents do here, citizens
I have
petitions.
done that in the past. I've done that 3 times in the past, generally to give a tongue lashing to the legislature. It's a little tougher to do it nowadays because the sessions last for 2 years. But you can, it's called by request. You can file it's your constitutional right to petition the legislature. You can file by request. Your legislator has to file it in your behalf. So they really have to do it, and you can ask for anything. Usually what I had used that power before was I did it for Chet Sohosky, a now deceased representative from Gardner. He's one of the very first Vietnam vets to ever be elected to the Massachusetts General Court, but he actually filed on my behalf a couple of bills.
So that was one question. The other question I had was,
Very effective method to give your legislative great and general court a tongue lashing because they deserve it at times.
and it's nice when
Next question.
so it was, these were the previous sponsors of 3701, and I think the board's gonna vote on it when they go back. So if you draft the letter, and I don't know if we could contact any of these, I have all their addresses and all their emails and stuff, if we would expand
What
our,
we will do for you, I mean, we have
yeah,
to vote on.
and then the
We
board
would
can
write a
vote to
letter for
expand.
the
yeah.
select board. Are we all in agreement?
Sounds good to me.
No. I mean, we would be glad to do that.
We'll
for
be
you.
back on the agenda for the 12th, too soon,
We could,
March 12th.
we could pass a motion tonight to write a letter and have it ready for review at your next select board meeting.
Which is March 12th.
Okay, there was something else, but I'm sorry. Oh, thank you so much for your time. And your.
I think unless there's any further discussion, I would entertain a motion to write a letter to the select board in favor of House Bill 3678. Yeah, so with the language to be, perhaps with the language to be determined.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Jacqueline, do you have your notes okay?
Yep,
You think you can draft a letter?
we'll see.
You want my email?
Yeah.
And at this time, there being a motion and a second, I would ask for a vote. Jacqueline?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I also vote yes.
Thank you, Jackie, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Right, have a good night.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, Mr. Chair, would this be related to 5B on our agenda, discussion and recommendations for the representative and senator?
Yes, I would say that would certainly be a legislative priority. We could draft a letter in addition to the legislative
Yep.
priority.
Do you want to jump to the rest of that discussion then?
Yeah, while it's fresh on my mind, okay, we'll go to 5B.
Sure.
Is it okay with you, John?
Yeah, sure meeting, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Have each of you had a chance to look at the legislative priorities
Yep.
sheet? It's entitled Proposed Request to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I cut off the bottom portion of it, and this is what's left. I think all of you have seen it before. So my question is, are there any additions or subtractions?
So, Mr. Chair, you had emailed this to me and I had reviewed it. And for the sake of clarity, and listing priorities, I think that your list is great. And what I tried to do was set some priorities so that the legislators that we intend to write will have, you know, it's unlikely that they're gonna be able to get all 30 of these things in this session, right? So if we can set some things that are, you know, really high priorities and other things that are priorities for us as well, it may help focus their efforts on trying to get a couple of things across the finish line without overlooking anything else.
Very good idea.
Yeah, so
So did you divide this request up into priority items?
I did, and I'm open to further discussion on what our high priorities should be versus our other priorities. In looking at this and putting together a draft for us to consider, I tried to focus on things that I think would be very impactful to the town, but also align with priorities that I have heard from the governor's office and the legislature. So those priorities that I believe line up with our priorities are funding for bridges and other infrastructure, focus on creating affordable housing, and then the pilot monies to support local communities, which I know is important to this board that we've discussed that, and you've done a lot of research on. We can certainly move things up and down, and it's not to pick things that are more important than other things as much as things that may be able to get across the finish line. So for this draft, I included for our high priorities, $4 million for the Main Street Otter River Bridge reconstruction, $5 million for the Hamlet Mill Bridge reconstruction, $1 million for restoration of properties that are tax lien properties to meet the Commonwealth of Massachusetts goal of creating affordable housing, $600,000 to reimburse our town for water and sewer pipe expense that the town had to expend because East Templeton Rotary, which is a state project, built first before Main Street Otter River Bridge. Again, these are things that were included on the email that you sent me. And $400,000 in additional pilot monies for land owned by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to meet formula as proposed by Mayor Wu of Boston.
Right, so that'd be one tier. Do you have other tiers?
Well, so I didn't add or subtract anything. I just kind of figured it would make sense to have a couple of bullet points that they could focus on rather than just the whole menu. So everything that you had on the previous sheet that I believe we discussed at a prior meeting, I think it was dated November, so I'm not sure which meeting we discussed it at, but I kept all the things on there that you had, didn't add
Yeah,
or
it's from
subtract or
November
change
24.
anything. Correct. So I just tried to, I guess, break it down to give them something to focus on.
John, do you have any thoughts?
I think it's fine.
Jacqueline, do you have any thoughts?
I just had a question, or did you also add the stone bridge reconstruction on the top, as you said, bridges? We were just talking about Hamlet Mill and Otter River.
I did not include the Stone Bridge reconstruction as one of the highest priorities for
Okay.
town funding. So open to discussing that.
Okay. I know that there was discussion from the governor about, monies for bridges, so, I mean, throw it in there if that's where they're willing to give the money to.
Yeah.
Go big.
Is this what you're gonna give to Zlotnik? State rep, are you gonna hand deliver this to the house? Or we're gonna mail it,
Well,
because they're gonna be meeting soon. I don't know when they started.
what I was hoping is we could have a letter to go to the select board and that they send a letter and then.
With these priorities,
Yes.
okay, because I think the select board are also working on the same similar priority list as well, I think.
Yeah, the goal was really to provide the select board our priority list and then they could, they could tweak it. as they see
Absolutely.
fit.
Yep.
Could I suggest this is if this list is suitable for everybody, is maybe send the list to the select board, but with the 5 items that Andrew had as being priority items.
Yeah, or any other items. I mean, I'm not, really, I think for me and looking at this, the best thing that we can do is have a focused list of things that we can ask them to fit into things that the state is already saying that they want to do. You know, and try to create those synergies that like.
I would entertain a motion to send this list to the select board with the 5 items that Andrew listed as being
Would you like to see it?
Yes.
I emailed it, I think, to you earlier. You can show the other members of the board if you'd like, to the committee.
yeah, I think this would work.
No, I don't see it.
So it's essentially all the items on the list, but you rearrange the priorities. And I want to be clear, our chances of getting even 1 or 2 of these are remote because of the way the legislature is structured, but. Having said that, if you don't ask, you don't get. And if we have a record year after year where nothing happens, there may be, I think it would help us in the future when we talk to the legislature and we could say, look, the last 4 years, we've had these priorities that we made clear and you did nothing. But this,
That's great. Yeah, I think with our letterhead and with the professionally put on our letterhead and obviously have the chair endorse it before it goes to the select board.
You email that. Or that.
so. So I would entertain a motion to adopt this. With a letter to the select board and Representative Zlotnik, State Senator Durant.
So moved.
Second,
And also one that just I sign it just to speed up the process, if that's acceptable.
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah, so I would then amend that motion that you would sign it.
What do you have, Jacqueline, for motion?
To send the proposed request to the Commonwealth with the 5 items on the top of our highest priorities to the select board, and then for you to be able to sign it so that to speed the process up.
But yeah, for the select board and.
For the select board. Yeah.
Is everybody clear?
Yep.
Okay, I had a motion and a second.
yes, and you had an amendment and another second.
Any further discussion? Not. Roll call, please. Jacqueline?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Don?
Yes,
I also vote yes. Right. Thank you, Andrew, for prioritizing that.
Sure.
Okay, at this time, John,
Yes.
for discussion and possible recommendation concerning the HERO Act and property tax abatements related to the HERO Act.
well, as everybody knows, that is if everybody's seen the Hero Act, it's pretty cumbersome, but I was only focusing on 2 things. The excise tax abatements and the housing property tax. I did receive a letter from the assessor stipulating, how many veterans, the amount, and then what is paid by the state in reimbursement to those funds, and based on his overlay. So in a nutshell, there was 44 total 100% disabled veterans in the town, which those 100% veterans get $1,000 tax deferment. And then there was, I think it was 68 of the $400 veterans that were getting $400 for their property tax abatement. So out of the $1,000 that gets abated, 882 gets reimbursed. And out of the 400, it was $225 gets reimbursed. So between that large pool, there was a difference of like $19,000 that was coming off the overlay potentially of monies that weren't reimbursed back to the town. With the HERO Act, what that does, it actually doubles both. So the 400 goes to 8 and the 1,000 goes to 2,000. The question is now, because the magic word is about appropriation, and that's what the state uses when they do their budgeting. So this is all new. So nobody knows what the actual amount of reimbursement that the town's going to receive. I was doing some numbers. I was guesstimating on the 44, obviously, the 44 veterans at $1,000 at 82. I just doubled that. And I doubled what we would get in return. So there was still a small difference, but at the end of the day, it wasn't like large enough numbers that was going to either break the overlay or have any issues with sustainability down the road for veterans assistance. So I'm still in the process. I want to still collect more data because again, this is all new. This is all new. So not every community is doing this. And it's not forced, which means the town has the ability to maintain the same, or it can elect by the vote of the people to go to the higher amount, the double amount, which again will take the town vote, which would take either a citizen's petition or we could take a warrant article presented either by the advisory committee or the select board. So again, I'm still in that process for dollars, but as far as the initial dollar amount, it's really not going to move any of Templeton's $26 million budget needle any further away because of the abatement and the dollars of return that the state's going to give. If anybody has any questions.
Yeah, I do, Mr. Caplis.
Sure.
I think my main concern, when I first learned about the HERO Act, it was, I just wanted to make sure that the town is in compliance. And it looks like compliance is being rolled out over a period of a couple of fiscal years. And that's really my main
Yeah.
concern, is that there would not be a veteran who falls in the cracks. And, because the town did not adapt to the provisions of the HEROES Act.
No, they are in compliance. And in fact, the way the HEROES Act is written, it allows the towns to either stay where they're at, which is the law, at the $400. If you're 90% disabled or less, it's $400 off your property tax. If you're 100% disabled, it's $1,000 off. We're in compliance. The way the HERO Act reads, it allows the town to either, you can opt to go to the higher amount, or you can stay to the lower. It doesn't matter. It gives the towns the ability to move. I mean, there are some towns out there. I'll use Danvers for an example. Danvers is whatever your VA disability is, what you pay in your real estate tax. So if you're 100% disabled living in Danvers, guess how much real estate tax you pay? 0. But the problem with that is the state will only reimburse the percentage of what the law states. So right now it's $1,000. So if your property tax is $10,000 in Danvers, I mean, the Danvers is only getting $1,000 for you. So you're eating $9 grand. I'm only using that as an example. I don't think Templeton would ever go to that level because it would never pass. I wouldn't even suggest it. But I definitely would like to do more research on this to see exactly where the numbers are going to fall out, and then work with Justice so I can just so I have a better understanding. So when we talk about dollars, I want to make, because I don't have what the appropriation is going to be if we do the double, meaning the 800 and the 2,000 based on appropriation. What does that mean? Does that mean we're only going to get like $1,000, so we're still going to eat 1,000 if we jump to the higher level, or you're going to fully fund this and have the reimbursement at least close? So instead of $882 for 1,000, say it's, $1,600 for if it's 2,000, so it's off by a couple $100. I can work with that. But I'm not gonna be able, I won't be able to work with if we're gonna do 2,000 and they're only gonna reimburse us $882 for $2,000. That doesn't sit well with me. And I'm a 100% disabled veteran, so it doesn't sit well with me because it wouldn't be fair to the rest of the people in Templeton. What would be fair is if there is a difference of a couple $100, I can understand that, especially the way we position ourselves financially, especially with the overlay. I mean, we're right now, I think there's over $700,000 in there, which is great. And it puts Templeton in a really great position to really, if we wanted to do something like this and we get more information, we can push it forward to the select board, knowing where our overlay is, knowing what our budgets are, and to be able to help our veterans at the same time. I think that might be a good opportunity. But in saying so, I also want to say the HERO Act is one act that has been changed greatly. There's another act that's been greatly changed, which is the Elders Act. So there's an Elders Act out there that's also been changed that I have not looked into yet. And that talks about like work programs and tax relief and a whole bunch of other stuff that I discussed with you briefly that I think we need to talk more about. Because again, I mean, this might be something that we could go hand in hand with the veterans and the elders here in the community to hopefully save some more money. Yes.
So are you suggesting that we defer any further discussion for, I know the first time this came up was in the fall. We
Right.
Deferred it until now.
Yeah.
Should we defer it again for another 3 months?
I would say 3. The only other issue with the hearing, everything's is time placed. So like a lot of these events are happening in 25 and 26. So like even the HEROES Act, as far as the real estate, it's rolling out in 25. So we're on target. I mean, so for us to roll it out for like maybe another 30 or 60 days, maybe. I mean, I don't need much more time. I mean, I have most of the data. I actually forgot my working sheet in my office, so I apologize. I had it all written out and I totally forgot to bring it.
But I guess my question is, for time is, would if we defer it until March, our meeting in March, would that give you enough time or? would the
Yes, that would be
meeting-
fine. March is fine. March is perfect. Thank you. If anybody else has any questions.
Do either of you have any questions or how do you feel about the deferral?
I think the deferral makes sense where we don't have all the information. I do have a question. My understanding right now is, Mr. Kaplis was talking about there is no additional appropriation by the state. You had said they may or may not vote on that. Do you have?
No, I said, I don't know if there's any appropriation for this. I know when they did the HEROES Act, they had to put money when they started the process. What the appropriation was, I have no idea. That's my concern.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can figure that out because
Yes.
I also spoke with with Justice and he had indicated to me that there is no additional reimbursement. So right now, if we're doing $1,000 exemption and we're reimbursed 800. These numbers show $825, not 882. I don't know if one of those is accurate or not, but if the exemption would go to 2,000, then we're still getting reimbursed 825. So it's not that it would cost us twice as much that it's costing us now. It would cost us like 6 or 7 times what it's costing us now if we don't get any additional reimbursement from the state. Which would be over so far this year, $82,000, $82,200 been granted in veterans exemptions in total so far. And that is still ongoing because the period ends April 1st. So there may be more people who are eligible for that. And if that amount doubled without any additional appropriations from the state, we would have to come up with 100% of that amount. So it'd be another 82,000 or more, according to Justice, that we'd have to figure out. So I think it makes sense for us to see how many more people would come on and then what if any additional reimbursements we would be eligible for from the state.
That sounds
Yep.
like April, for the April.
We could do April. Okay,
And also, would Justice have know about the elder piece?
he would, yes.
I can talk with him,
Mhm.
maybe we can do both the elder piece and the HERO Act.
Sure.
At
Yeah.
the same time.
And Andrew's right, that was the main question was what was appropriations, because yearly appropriations happen, so how can you give appropriations without foresight, you know what I mean? So there, whatever the budget was when they made it in 24 for 25, when it changed the Heroes Act, obviously there's no money in there for that. It's gonna be the following year, which is gonna be the main stack as far as where the appropriations come from, which I'm assuming. I can't assume them making out a bill and not having the appropriate, the some appropriate appropriations for dollars. Especially for veterans, I don't know, and the elders. But yeah, April's right.
Why
Thank you.
don't, we have a vote on deferring this until our April meeting.
So moved.
We have a second. Okay. Any further discussion? No further discussion, Jackie?
Yes.
Yes. John?
Yes.
I also vote yes, or we have deferred it until April. Thank you.
Would you,
Also for looking into that.
Yeah, would you object to the veterans officer to be here at that meeting? So that might be a good, thing to, maybe we can do an invite for her,
I think that's
for
a great
Michelle to
idea.
come here. I'll talk to her. Okay.
Maybe I could talk to Justice about the elder piece.
Yep.
as well. Hey, item 5C, discussion and possible recommendation concerning state pilot monies following the Mayor Wu formula. Did all of you have a chance to review email that I sent?
Yes.
Yes. Um, I just, without belaboring it, I've talked about this before, but if you look through the email that I sent. Is I
Look at it.
I think that how you, right now, the pilot paid for state lands. I use 20%. I'm not 100% certain that 20% of the state owns 20% of the lands within the town of Templeton. But I did assume that figure, and I think if it was a little bit more, a little bit less, it's not gonna make that much of a difference. But using the Mayor Wu formula, if you use just the municipal portion of the budget, you get, one figure, $540,000. And if you use the municipal budget plus the school budget, you get potentially, if you follow the formula, potentially $1 million back. And I really think that this is one of the items that Representative Zlotnik has told me that he could make an adjustment on, far more easily than some of the other requests, which is why I'm pursuing this. It's kind of low hanging fruit compared to other items. And what I am going to suggest is I presented the formula and the goal being to send send a letter to the select board, and also I think we can send a letter to our representatives asking that the pilot payments for lands owned by the state be in the range of $750,000, which I think in light of the formula is a reasonable request.
Wouldn't that be based on appropriation as well? That'll be based on appropriation as well, wouldn't it?
We would,
Right.
we would, but it's one of those items where John has indicated to me that he seems to have a little bit more discretion to act just for Templeton as opposed to other items.
Understood.
And also, there's a lot of state-owned land within his district. He's given in the past the example of Ashburnham, which is 60% of the lands in Ashburnham are owned by the state. So
I agree.
it's just that the amount of money has really been very, very small in the scheme of things. And I think it will, helpful to write a letter, even if nothing, again, creating a record, even if nothing may happen down the line.
So this letter that we talked about earlier, you had requested 400,000 in additional pilot monies.
Yes, which would bring it to, it's just under 200,000, so we'd bring it to.
Five something.
Roughly 600,000. So if you want to be
But
consistent
do you want
with
to do,
that,
well, I was gonna say, but I thought you mentioned 750.
I did. I
So
did.
do you want to update this to say, instead of our current amount, we believe it should be about 750? Instead of saying 400,000 additional, just to make it clearer for them?
I think to be realistic, I think 400,000 additional plus the just under 200,000 that you have, that would get an amount of $600,000. And that's a more reasonable request. And that almost exactly fits with the equipment needs of the DPW. You know, hopefully that money can be used for equipment. You know, the way the meals tax is used for police cruisers, which I think is a great idea. I don't know who came up with that. You who came up with that idea?
It was.
I think that's a wonderful idea. It really is, you know, it's dedicated money, you know.
Every resource.
And
Every
the,
revenue
and,
stream.
and the, you know, the police saved, I believe, $15,000 in maintenance costs last year because. You know, because they.
On the warranty.
Equipment.
So you want this letter to go to the select board?
Or you could go to the select board or could go to both the select board and our representatives. I think that
I think
perhaps. I think both. Would be helpful.
Mhm. I'll make a motion for it to be, this letter to be sent to the select board and to the representatives.
You know, which would explain the Mayor Wu formula and then, you know, request,
And obviously signed by the chair to make it more expedient.
and it was 600,000.
Mhm. Yeah.
Do you have that, Jack?
Yep.
Just read that back.
Motion to send the Mayor Wu proposal to the select board and Representative Zlotnik in the amount of approximately $600,000 for pilot payments.
And also, State Senator Peter Durant. That's suitable for you.
Sounds good to me, yeah. And again, signed by you.
Chair Francis, Mary
Yes.
Griffiths, Durant. Would it have more teeth if this co-signed by the select board or, you know, jointly agreed upon? Is there any other wording that you might entertain to give it more teeth? You don't need us, but
We would hope that a second letter will be drafted by the select board because, you know,
make that in your recommendation. Please follow suit.
yes.
We did.
Mhm.
Do I have a second?
I will second it. I would like to discuss it a little further.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just that letter is, as it's written, is sort of addressed to us and explaining it, you know, instead of sending this letter, I would suggest that we take basically the guts of this letter and maybe change it to the audience that we want to send it to.
Right, it would
That would
be
be-
just a recitation of
Yeah.
a formula. not-
Basically,
Not all
right.
that
Yeah.
memo, that was really for your benefit.
Right.
Of course, but I want to make sure the resolution's clear on it, that we're not sending this letter, that we're sending a
Yeah.
letter that represents the.
Right.
I think it was implicit by.
I was.
glad you brought that up. You know, we'll give you a chance to look at the draft.
That's why, I mean, that's why I intended the, you know, when you write a letter, I knew that wasn't gonna. It's fine. It's all good.
Further discussion?
Just one more question, Mr. Chair. So will this letter be edited and then sent to me to put in the document, or am I editing it?
I will, we can join together and write a letter based.
Okay.
I think that will be acceptable to everybody. Further discussion?
Mhm.
Right, I'll call the roll, Jacqueline?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
I also vote yes. Okay, the next item, discussion and possible recommendation regarding, the update of comparison towns for budgeting purposes. I believe you've done some research into that, so.
I did. Did everybody get a copy of the email that was sent out yesterday with the comparison communities?
Just received it today because it was too hard to read. In the
Yeah.
email.
I made it small because there's actually 11 communities on here. I did 11 because I wanted us to talk about the communities, and if we needed, I would like to take one off because it should be 10. That way these, and then what I'll do is I'll turn it so it actually fits on the paper, so it's a little bit bigger. If I turned it the other way, it wouldn't have fit. That's why it was like that. But like I said, there's 10 communities on here from Dayton, Granby, Lancaster, Munson, Orange, Rutland, Southwick, Ashburnham, Townsend, and Westminster. Now, there are a lot of the communities that were on the original one too as well, because again, I looked at a lot of different aspects, from general information to values to revenue sources, tax class, levy capacity, which is huge. Percent spent by fund, financial indicators, and I just thought it would be so we have a better snapshot of these communities along with Templeton. And as you can see, they're pretty much all in line. But like I said, I like to, delete one community if possible to make it the 10. But we don't have to. It's up to you.
I was gonna suggest, if it's not cast in stone, where we have 10,
No, it's not cast in stone. I mean, no. It's all for the budget process. It's all for the select board, and the town administrator to look across the board, on the other communities and where we are. Financially, economically, percentages, and growth. I mean, since 2005, we've almost doubled in size.
I do have a question. if I may. I noticed that one of the towns you deleted, with Montague.
Mhm.
And I know from the previous list,
Mhm.
one of the things in common was, the amount of debt
Yep.
carried by the towns, and Montague had an enormous amount of debt, which kind of skewed. The, I believe it was 13 towns that were used before.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about the overall amount of debt? And well, I guess my 5 questions would be, are these the closest 10 towns?
Yes.
And what is the level of debt for Templeton compared to some of these towns? Was there anything that popped out at you?
I mean, some were lower. I mean, Templeton's actually went down from our previous. It was like 12%. Now we're down to, I believe 10% debt. So we are going in a downward trend. But again, people have to understand it. I mean, with light debt and water debt, even though it's a municipal, and sewer debt, even though they're independent and they have their enterprise funds, all their debt falls on the town. They pay the bill, but we're like the co-signers. So it still falls on us. So like all the water tower debt or for the sewer department, when they're doing their whatever debt that they get, it falls on the town. So that falls on our overall debt resource. So it's not all town debt. Our town debt's probably like 6%. But because we have water, light, sewer debt that fall on us, that's why our debt's kind of high.
Yeah.
And especially we just went out for another loan for the pump station Karate Ave. So that's a $2 million, potential pump station. So that $2 million debt's gonna fall on the town as well. So you might see that debt level fluctuate again a little bit more, but no matter which way you slice it, I think, based on I guess indicators, whatever terminology you want to use, we're actually pretty decent. Even based on our tax rate, based on the other 10 communities, our tax rate is the lowest at 12.12. Everybody else, the other one that comes close is 12.30. And I believe that was Townsend.
Westminster.
Yeah, Westminster, 12.30 Westminster.
Titans 12.56.
So, but everybody else, like Granbury's 15.37, Lancaster's 16.16, Munson's 14.87, Orange is 16.45, Rutland is 14.24, Southwick is 15.57, and so forth and so on. So, I mean, we're still pretty low capacity wise. And then looking at our levy limits, which is these are indicators that even like bond ratings, if it's Moody's or whatever bond rating company is looking at you, I mean, they look at all these indicators to see where you sit amongst other towns of your size. And like I said, from 2005 till now, we went from just under 5,000 folks to almost 9,000 folks. So, and a lot of these indicators are pretty much staying the same, except obviously new growth has gone up a lot. I know in the budget book, we always put like $80,000 in new growth. But it's always a couple 100,000 typically. I mean, from history, you know what I mean? Is that gonna be the trend like every single year? No, but it's definitely, there's indicators in there that help us through the process. So if there's any questions with this, I mean, this is, I could definitely tweak this. I could definitely modify it. Whatever you guys think that needs to be changed. Or if you have any other questions.
I do have one more question. And that is, this is really for the folks out in the public, I watch this on TV. What is the number of police officers in the comparison towns and the number of firefighters in the comparison towns? And how does Templeton compare
Well,
with its number of those? Or is that an unfair comparison?
it's not really unfair, but I mean, I really can't touch on fire because the different communities run different department styles on the fire side. A lot of us out in the western part of the state are still on a volunteer system. Smaller, bigger towns like Templeton, where we have AOS and a full-time AOS service, and Winston, same thing. Police, I could definitely touch on. I mean, I sent a message out too as well. We have right now, we have 10 full-time officers. In 2010, we had 10 full-time officers in 2010. We reduced it in, I think it was 2013, 2014, because the budget's response, we were cutting because there's a lot of money issues in the town in those days. So they cut a lot of staff, and the police were ones that were cut. So they went down to 8. In 2017, I think 2018, we brought it back up to the 9. And due to the opera money, we were able to bring the 10th police officer back in play. The issues that policing's having today is the fact that, the part-time force is no longer existent. Just because of the training requirements that are required for police officers to have, there's no way to keep a part-time force. So it has to be a full-time force. So my point being is in 2010, we had less than 5,000 people or 5,000 folks. Now we have over almost 9,000 folks, and we have the same amount of police officers as we did back then. But this concerns, it's twofold. The first one is the security and safety of the community, but it's also potential, opens us up for future liability and legality. We do have a lot of police officers in this town. We do have a lot of retired and military people in this town. We do have, state police, correction officers, et cetera, in this town. But as far as our full-time workforce, we have 10 full-time officers. And when I talk liability, legality, let me be fair. If there is a domestic at 1 o'clock in the morning and we have one police officer on, and the backup is state police, which is coming from the Kings Bridge, and it takes that person 10, 15, 20 minutes to get here, and we surpass the response times, and somebody gets killed, who takes the liability and the legality of a wrongful death lawsuit? Because what I've seen, what I've researched is that will fall on the specific town or city that it belongs to. So is it out of the realm of something like that happening in Templeton? Probably. But again, I don't want to, I get messages like on social media all the time, like, the fire department guys, they're washing their trucks and they're watching TV and they're not doing anything. Or I get, oh, the police guys, they're parked at this place and they're just sitting there idle and watching the traffic go by. I'm like, and you're probably right. You're probably right. But it's like my homeowner's insurance or my car insurance. That is our insurance. Those folks are our insurance. So if something goes wrong, they need to be there. So if they're sitting idle or they're washing their truck or doing whatever they're doing, being productive in their workday, they respond in a moment's notice. And I think people need to understand that. I mean, just because you don't see them out there every day doing whatever we all think they should be doing, which is taking care and making sure that the safety of Templeton is being protected. Let me digress back to the fire department real quick. So fire, they have 6 full-time firefighter paramedics, 6 that cover 24-hour operations, 7 days a week. Let me say it again. They have 6 full-time people that cover 7 days a week. They do have part-timers and they have per diems that come in. They do also have a waiver to do what they call a PB truck. It's a basic and a paramedic. So they're able to run paramedic operations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because it's mandated but it's mandated by the state. So if we're not able to mandate 24-hour operations of ALS, then they will pull our license completely. And what does that mean? Well, they'll pull our license and then you're like, oh, we'll go back to BOS. Well, guess what? They'll probably pull that too. And it'll probably take 5 years to get it back. So we're kind of stuck with the ALS model, and stuck in a good way because we have the highest level of care around. It's like an ER room in the back of a truck that moves. And these men and women are trained to the max. But 6 people is not going to be enough people to maintain and sustain over the next, 3 to 5 to 10 years. There's no way you can sustain that type of, especially when the momentum is going this way. We've all seen ambulance receipts. We've seen, what Coastal is billing. We see what money's coming in. We made enough money to purchase our own ambulance outright based on ambulance receipts for the first time. So if those keep going up, and then on top of all that, we're losing revenue, but it's not as bad as you think. We are losing some revenue, based on Woods and other contract ambulance out of the private sector services that come in as backup. Because if we have 2 ambulance calls at one time, obviously you can only go one at a time. So usually Woods would take up the second ambulance, but it's limited. But there are other avenues. I'm looking at that as well. Right now, I think there's a verbal or some type of, paper napkin, type of agreement with Woods. I think we should make that a more steady agreement, depending on what the funding they're receiving out of Templeton's residents, to bring some of that funding back potentially with a contract, so to speak. And I'm not talking large dollars, but depending on a percentage of whatever they take is what they can give back. But again, this is something else I'm looking at. So to talk about police again, town of Barry, who has a population of 5,000 folks, 5,500 to be exact. They have 11 full-time officers here. Town of Ashburnham, they have a population of 6,415. They have 14 full-time officers. Winchendon has 10,000 folks, and they have 16 full-time officers. Town of Orange has 7,558, and they have 14 full-time officers. Westminster has a population of 8,000 folks, and they have 15 full-time officers. Rindge, New Hampshire, population of 6,476, has 9 full-time officers. Town of Jaffrey, New Hampshire, population of 5,503, they have 10 full-time officers as well. So I know there's been a lot of talk of like this, by capita, like so many 100,000 some odd people equals a police officer. I really haven't seen that model, but what I have seen is with the comparisons and with the policing, that we're short based on our size, at least for full-time police officers. Am I saying we're gonna get 4? No, I'm not saying that. But based on these numbers, I think and our population size and our mileage, our square mileage of our community, I mean, we're definitely short, without a question in my mind. We're definitely short police and we're definitely short fire. And obviously, after seeing the highway do its business with the snow removal this past winter, I honestly believe we're short highway people as well. Because there's no way, this is the first time ever that I've seen Templeton roads the way I've seen them. And it's not anybody's fault. It's not the highway's fault. It's not it's just the fact that we have 6 full-time highway people to plow almost 80 square miles. 6. And then if somebody gets hurt or a piece of equipment breaks down, they used to have 9. Now they have 6. So, if anybody has any questions, I mean, I can further any of this data to you. All this information has been given to, the select board's office, so they have it, and it should have been uploaded into the system so people can have visibility of it as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jacqueline, do you have any questions of John?
I do not. Thank you.
Yeah, do you have any questions? First of all, thank you very much for a very thorough chart and
Sure.
presentation. It's greatly appreciated. At this time, I would entertain a motion. Are we ready to entertain a motion to have this new list? With all the towns, replace the older list.
It's ready to go. Unless somebody has any other discussion or changes they'd like to make or see. I mean, I'm
Is everybody in agreement? I personally feel that the more towns, the better, and I think the
Good enough.
number of towns.
That's good. What I can do is I can change the format. I can turn it to landscape. That way it'll be bigger. That way people can see it as well. And then that way when you sign it and this gets the select board chair, because your signatures will be on the bottom. Okay.
Entertain a motion. And to approve these new comparison towns and forward it to the select board. I wish to make that motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Have that written down.
Mhm.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, we'll vote Jacqueline,
Yes.
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 and I also vote yes. Thank you very much for
Absolutely.
the next item on the agenda is
Don't mind. When John has those reformatted, if you could just email those to me, I did upload them on my town government, but they're really not legible at all. Once
They-
they're scanned in, I don't know if you saw the.
I did
email.
not.
Yeah, once they're scanned in, you really can't read it.
Oh, that's terrible. Okay, I would email that to you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is 5E, discussion and recommendation regarding the bonding of the town accountant and any other town official, comparison of comparable towns. I believe, John, you indicated that you would look into this. Did you have a chance to look?
I
into
didn't.
this?
I have not.
Okay, should we defer this to another month?
Sure, unless anybody else has anything to add, I have not.
Why don't we, because the hour is getting late, why don't we defer this? How much additional time do you feel you would need?
I haven't
2
even-
months?
No, I mean, I just haven't had opportunity to look at it yet, so I was focusing more on the comparisons and the veterans stuff, so,
All right, why don't we defer this until May point?
okay. Sounds good.
You need to vote.
Good.
Business. 6A, second discussion of possible recommendation regarding a possible proposition 2.5 override for town and school budget for FY 2026. I guess my first question is, should this be deferred for some period of time? For the budget process to perhaps go along a little bit further.
I think that makes sense. We don't know what the school's number is yet. And we're still figuring that out. So I think any discussion of a potential override would be premature.
Also, Mr. Cathles, did you get an email from Sue Varney? regarding the next,
I did not.
chairs meeting.
I haven't checked my email today, but they might have.
I got that yesterday. You know the date offhand?
It's next Thursday. We can put a,
It's at 9 a.m.
yes,
Yeah, we. Next Thursday, 9 a.m. I'll forward that email
Okay.
to you.
That'd be great.
So, if we could defer that. Is everybody in agreement?
Sure.
Yes.
yes.
And also. B, C, and D, should those also be deferred? Since,
If I can just quickly discuss B. So at the meeting that we had for the chairs last week with the school committee, I did ask. Superintendent Cassavant, if they could put together some loose budgets for, say the next 3 years or so. So that we can have some idea on what their expectations of the budget will be. As the town administrator discussed earlier, the numbers have been much greater than the increase in the town's budget or revenue. And so he answered in the affirmative that he would work on that, and I'm hoping that we would have more information on that this week. I don't know that we could recommend the town to project a budget 3 to 5 years forward without having a projection from the school, just like we would any other department. So that's kind of one has to, I think, come before the other.
I guess my question to everybody is, what is the goal here? Is the goal to, at some point, make a recommendation to the select board and the town at large as to what a 3 to 5 year plan should look like?
In my opinion, I think the benefit of a 3 to 5 year plan would be that we can try to work within the parameters of 2.5 and not kind of be surprised every year if we have to do an override or not, or have this come up or not, or meet budget goals or lay people off or cut services. Understanding that we don't have a crystal ball as to what the budget needs will be 3 years from now, or whether it's going to snow next week or anything. But to have some clarity, at least toward as a greater discussion, I think there's been a difference of expectations or opinion or feelings from some people who want to see increased funding for certain departments or the schools or whatever, and other people who didn't have that expectation that the numbers would be higher or lower. And so maybe projecting out a little bit will give everybody a little bit more clarity and allow people to work together more collaboratively.
I agree.
Your thoughts?
I think, forecasting is the way to go. If you don't do it now, then, we've been talking about the same thing, and so is the Department of Revenue, and so is DLS. So, I mean, we're all on the same page for a reason. We should be all getting on the same bandwagon. I mean, there are only projections. It's a moving target. People don't realize that a budget is a living, breathing document. It fluctuates, it moves. But what I will say is since 2016, we've had a balanced budget. And there's a caveat to that with free cash. Mr. Bennett would always tell me, always don't use free cash for your budgets. I'm like, you're absolutely right. We try not to, but we don't at the beginning of the year. We do at the end of the year because we typically use free cash to offset the budget with snow and ice deficit. And I've said it time and time again, every other community is doing the same thing unless they have a lot of money and they put a lot of money in their snow and ice account where they don't have to have a deficit. We do. We don't have the funds in order to keep increasing to where we need to be because we don't know what the snow forecast is going to be for the following season. So it's more advantageous for us to, pay personnel than to put money into a snow and ice that we'd have no idea if we're going to spend it or not, knowing the fact that we can't deficit spend by law. But, I think it's a double-edged sword, but we need a forecast. And we at least have some type of living document that's out there that has all the, projections out for the next, just 3 years, like Andrew said, just 3 years. I mean, you're not saying 5, we're not saying 10, 3 years. We already know, the school's gonna go up 400,000 and plus next year alone, just in the raises of the contract. And we know the bus is gonna go up 18% based on the contract. So we know what the contract rates are gonna be already. The only way until House 1 comes out, we have no idea what the Chapter 70 money is. I get it. you know, we're basing funds off of numbers from last year. So like this year's kids that come in, we have 50 kids come in this year today. Well, those kids don't get counted until next year. And by the state guidelines, by the state rules, they're done after the fact. So it's like, so if those 50 kids come in, I mean, wherever they go, they're putting them where, you know, in spaces and they're being taught, but it's like, they're not counted for dollars until the following year. So it's really challenging, especially when you have a flux of kids that come in, students that come in, it's like, okay, well, they're coming in, okay, whatever. I mean, and I think Andrew pointed out, it was only what, 3% or 2% last year or one, I mean, it wasn't that many kids. But in 2020, 21, it was, and 22, there was a lot of kids, but in 23 and 24, it kind of like went down. But it's like, but they're still recovering from 21, 22. When you have 180 kids come in like 2-year period, 2.5-year period, it's like, oh, that's a lot. So, and it takes 2 years to catch all those funding brackets up. So that's one of the issues that the schools have. They're trying to play catch up, not giving them, a way out. I mean, the funding is still, it's still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but they are trying to play catch up. But we have to plan and forecast, like Andrew said.
So you're thinking of deferring this until April?
Sure.
Okay, we'll defer it until April.
Mr. Chair, are you talking about B and C?
Yes,
Okay.
Can I talk about D?
yes.
Quick, because it's 8:15. So the RAC is the regional agreement. So I was on the RAC. We met probably like once every other week, and it was virtual, and it was horrible. It was probably one of the worst experiences I've been on. Because again, virtual, there's no, you can't get it was just a horrible experience. But we went through it, and
Yeah, during
yeah. But it was enlightening, dealing with, an agreement from the 70s, then dealing with something from the 80s, and then dealing with something from 2004. And I'm like, so I'm looking at all these things, and we're finding out as we go, like even like the 2004 one that even Adam just brought up tonight, that didn't even go to DESI. That wasn't even approved by DESI. That was like done in-house. So DESI didn't even see that one. So when DESI's like, oh no, we don't even have that one. That one doesn't even count. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so we worked diligently on this agreement with Phillipson when, and Phillipson was, they were present at some of the meetings. And the majority of things that changed was the names. It was like East Templeton Elementary School was taken off because it's no longer here. We're using it as town hall. The Baldwin Elementary School was closed. That's being sold. The Templeton Center School, the actual Templeton Center, which was gone. So it was cleaning up language. I think one of the only big things that changed was the amount of dollars, that the towns would have to pay if the insurance couldn't pick up an amount. I think it went from $5,000 to $15,000 or something like that, which still $15,000 isn't going to replace a window. But nevertheless, that's what we changed. The problem is come when we sent it to went to Phillipston, went to Templeton, went through DESI legal, it went to our town legal. It came back, we put it on the town floor with the warrant article. We had the warrant article up there, and somebody, and I was there, I don't know who it was, but somebody changed the language, made a motion on the floor to change the language of the RAC agreement. Once the motion was made, seconded, voted on, approved, RAC, they changed it on the floor. As soon as they did that, it's dead in the water. Dead. So then what happens? Well, it only has 2 ways of travel. So now it goes back to the working group as a draft, and it has to either go through the process of the school committee, through DESI legal, back to towns, town legals, then the towns put it back on the warrant floor. Now, the change that I saw, it wasn't a big change, but it was a change enough that Phillipson felt it hurt their feelings, and I don't agree. It shouldn't have been changed on the floor. But it was, nevertheless, so now they have to bring it back to the school committee. School committee has to bless off on it. School committee has to bring it to Desi. Desi has to look at it. Legal has to send it back to us and to Phillipston. We have to bring it back potentially to the town floor and have a revote, or if Desi Legal says the change was within the legal parameters and there's no issue legally, Templeton will not need to bring it back to the floor because it would be fine and it was already voted on, so there would be no issue on the Templeton side. It would have to go back to Phillipston. Phillipston would have to put it back on their, put it on a warrant article, and they would have to vote on it. Now, obviously, and hopefully it gets approved, if it gets approved. And people have all this fear like, well, what if it doesn't get approved? Then we don't have an agreement. Well, that's not true. There is a legalese in there that since the school was, back in the 70s, when the original agreement was made, any supplement changes, there will always be a regional school district. And that won't change unless there's a withdrawal from either city or town. But nevertheless, that's where the rack is right now. I know Dr. Cosma he was talking to Desi. I did mention your request, Andrew, yesterday with Dr. Cosma. He's working on those numbers for you.
Yeah.
He said he should have them hopefully tomorrow, but if not, early next week before the meeting. And he's also waiting to get an answer from Desi as far as, does this pass the legalese piece to bring it back to the towns, or is it something that the RAC needs to reform and have a re-sit down? I'm not sure, but again, more to follow on that. Okay. Unless anybody has any questions.
Does anybody have any questions or wish to add to the discussion?
Just to, I guess, add to what Mr. Kaplis was saying. Mr. Cassavant did sort of present a lot of that in our meeting last week, and for the record, he also added that prior to the RAC agreement being amended on the floor of Templeton town meeting, Phillipston they had their town meeting beforehand,
They
and they
did.
didn't actually even address it or bring it up or put it on a warrant, so.
That's right.
Even though the procedure that John described is accurate, that we need to get buy-in from different places now that it's been amended, it was kind of a moot point anyway, because Phillipston never took up the agreement at all.
Right.
It wasn't the amendment on the floor that blew up the process.
No, right.
All right, so item D will be deferred until April. I think I would also like to defer discussion on the Main Street Bridge, and that's okay with everybody, the hour is getting late, and that would be 6G. Have MMA conference in Boise.
What you have, 6G?
Yes, 6G.
Mr. Chair, are we deferring the Main Street Bridge until March or April? Okay.
And the reason for that is this may become the subject of another town meeting article, which we deal with that thing, what we have looked at. On the warrant for the legal town meeting.
You don't think it makes sense to discuss it then before.
I put it up until April, but by that time we should know what the warrant. I think so. I think it's a sense of at least the town administrator. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I think there is a sense that you should try. There may be an attempt to try one more. Oh, it's failed twice. I have a feeling that the bridge at some point is going to get closed, which would be a major public safety issue.
We're deferring discussion.
Unless you have something that you wish to,
Sure, I mean, the townspeople have spoken twice and rejected it twice.
Yeah.
So, whether we think it makes sense or it may be shut down, I fully suspect that if it's not repaired, at some point it will be shut down. I don't know when that would be.
And I have a sense that we're beating a dead horse.
I mean, the townspeople have spoken twice, so I respect the will of the people. And I'm not sure how many more times we need to put it in front of them again and again until the other side gets their way.
We really need the bridge. It's a public safety issue, but the townspeople have spoken.
At least for now.
They might speak again once it's fully closed.
Yeah, when circumstances change, right?
Yeah, and I think it'll be the finger pointing of, why didn't you get this built before?
And it may be more expensive to repair it at that point and.
No, it is $1 million more than what it was proposed 2 years ago.
Yep, correct.
Like,
Did you look at your time, Mr. Chair, as far as for the pre-town meeting? Because town meeting is what, the 14th?
yeah,
So we're gonna potentially have 2 meetings in April.
potentially.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent.
So I would, as I said, I would defer, at least discussion or.
For further discussion.
Right.
Okay, so G then?
Yes. There an amount,
What?
is the amount of the conference invoices.
No, I don't
I
have.
don't have the invoice.
You have the invoice?
Do you know if the invoice was in the packet?
I've never seen that.
I have a figure of $1,354, but without the invoices, I don't want to hold a vote. A speculative vote, I don't think that'd be a good idea.
Is there any downside to addressing it at our next meeting? Do we need to have a quick
No. We're
meeting in
gonna,
between?
at this time, I go to member comments, Jacqueline.
Not at this time, thank you.
Sure, just a few in the interest of time to keep it quick. I found out some, I think, good news today. I want to thank people who don't get thanked enough are the TV folks who help us broadcast our meetings every month and help us get online when we're remote and take care of us in person. So thank you. And I found out today that our Templeton Light and Water Department has agreed to a pilot payment to support TCTV in the amount of $50,000.
How much?
$50,000.
Badly needed.
Yeah, so I'm very happy to hear that, and I think it's gonna go to a lot of good work that your organization does, so thank you and congratulations. Was one other item I wanted to address and slipping my mind right now. Oh, the BDAs and town accountant, if you wanted to address that or not. I would, hopefully on a future meeting, we'd be able to address that. There was the goal to address it tonight and review it, and due to a glitch,
Yeah.
it didn't end up on the final agenda, so what are those?
What I wanted to ask is, I'd have to set it up with TCTV, and I was thinking of another meeting, maybe earlier in March. The primary purpose to go over the BBAs.
Yeah.
Have a lot of questions, and one of the concerns I have is that on the town's books. Is we have appropriated money and we have not spent money. We add it all up, it's over $3 million, like 3.1 or $3.2 million. And I know that once you appropriate it, you have to spend it for the purpose of which it is spent. You can't be like Congress that takes money out of Social Security and then deposits an IOU.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We
don't
can't
do
We
that.
can't do that, but it's a big dollar amount, and it's a big dollar amount, and I wish there was something, I know it's probably wishful thinking, but it's a big dollar amount that's just sitting on the books.
Well, I think there is the ability to do transfers. And we oftentimes do that at the end of the year. But maybe there's a different way to address that. If that's a concern of yours, we can discuss that at a future meeting.
It's a large sum of money that we can't do anything about. I mean, one of the examples is $800,000 of unspent ARPA money. It's already been allocated, it's already been awarded. We gotta spend it for ARPA. We can't use it to spend it to close the gap in the school budget, but it's sitting there.
And
So,
just if I may, just to keep it real quick, one more comment. I know that in the last few weeks, I wanted to acknowledge the town accountant and the work that other people have done in the town to get the IRS penalty that was proposed waived completely.
yes,
And save the
waived
town
completely.
thousands and thousands of dollars due to their hard work. And so, great job for them. Thank you very much for.
Because that money might have been coming to us, all of our reserve account.
Well, our reserve account, but the townspeople's money, right?
Right.
So I'd rather it be used for us and not sent to Washington. So good job.
Don, do you have any comment?
I'm all set. Thank you. Great job, everybody.
All right, I just want to say very, very quickly, I very much appreciate the efforts of all of my fellow members. Jacqueline with the minutes. Julie with her work on the capital improvement over the months, Andrew with your attendance at the all chairs meeting and work on that. And also, helping me and John, I'm not comparable in town. Very good work. I'm really, it's really a credit to all of you and I very much appreciate it. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Second. All right, all those in favor?
Hi.
I